I intend to attune to whatever wants to be spoken. May it come through me unimpeded. I talk a lot about the mental body and the mental plane. And if you've never seen the stuff that I talk about, essentially what I believe is that there is a mental plane where there are just a bunch of ideas and words and things floating around, all at different frequencies, all at different vibrations. And then we have our mental body, which is the part of us that attunes to these different things that are floating around in the field. And I am certainly not the first one to talk about this. I say it all the time. Tesla talked about this is how he got many of his ideas. Einstein, Jimi Hendrix have all said that these things just landed in them, and their role was to transcribe them in a way that they interfered as little as humanly possible. That's what I feel like I am stepping into. I'm trying to become and understand. I have zero desire, zero desire to cater to the algorithm on any of the social media platforms, including here on YouTube. I do not want to come up with a hook. I do not want to, have a bridge and have all these quick cuts and jumpy edits and all of this bright flashing stuff to keep your attention. I have no desire to get on Canva and to mess with a thumbnail for hours or days to tweak it so that I can maximize the number of people that see this thing that I'm putting out to the world. Instead, I want to share a message. I want to connect from my heart to your heart. I want to share with the world. And I've realized that I've been leaning so heavily on the need to edit videos or the need to have a strong script or a strong set or all of these things. And I ultimately realized or got to a place where I can see so clearly what is happening there is a mixture of limiting belief, meaning I don't think I can be successful without those things, which all you have to do is look at YouTube for like 10 minutes to know that that's not the case. There are so many different creators out there that are doing just going for a walk with a camera, talking, and they're massively successful with like zero editing and just a screenshot as a thumbnail. So in that sense, I know that it is not true. And then the other thing that is happening here is this sense of fear, this sense of postponement, essentially, where I feel like I need to set up all of these different pieces before I really, start to share the good stuff or get into the groove with creating content. Like I need to have the website set up. I need to have a funnel page. I need to have a call to action. I need, like all this nonsense business lingo and jargon and teaching that is rolling around in the back of my brain from previous iterations of myself. And I went to Montreal last weekend to a crew of people, crew of creatives, people that have businesses. And they basically, helped me to see or to realize that what I have has nothing to do with any of the editing. It has nothing to do with needing to change how I show up. In fact, it's me changing how I show up and trying to control how you see me and trying to say the right things and all of this that is stopping people from deeply connecting with me. And I think I finally have let that sink in all the way. I had a conversation today with a girl here in Charleston who is transitioning from one phase of her life to the next phase of her life. And part of that transition is she's bringing an astrology brand out into the world. And she spent months getting all of her website set up and her creative set up and getting everything ready to go. And then she launched it last week and she sat down in front of me and said, it just doesn't feel right. Something feels off. And this is the exact thing that I was guilty of. And what I realized is that I was doing it because I didn't want the answer to the question, what if this doesn't work? That's what it all boiled down to. What if this doesn't work? If I could just wait in putting out, really doubling down, really leaning into this, then I won't know that it's not working. And I will be able to, stretch this process of feeling okay in the middle out a little bit longer. It's like when, you know, people go to college and they just keep going to college so that they don't have to meet the real, quote unquote, the real world where, it might come known that the choices that they made up until that point were not the right choices for where they wanted to go in their lives. In fact, all of the choices perhaps came because they were meeting somebody else's expectations, their parents' or society's expectations of what they really wanted out there in the world. And so it's about overcoming the fear and putting yourself out there in a way that feels true for you, not in a way that feels true for the algorithm or feels true for the business minds. Like, we're really doing ourselves and the world a disservice by not sharing from our heart, by not sharing your unique genius, because we're worried, because we feel like we're not ready. And the thing is that feeling, I don't think, ever goes away. I think it's part of being a human. My girlfriend is a PhD neuroscientist, and she deals with imposter syndrome and worrying about not having enough knowledge, not enough education to speak about some of the things that she speaks about. And so it's just something that is forever going to be there. And so when you realize that it is a limiting belief, we can choose to move forward anyway. And the other thing that's really helpful with moving forward anyway is that we get the feedback that is required to shift and change our message around. So everything that I have launched, everything that I have put out into the world, I think one thing, right? I think that the value is X, but then I put it out to the world and I interact with the people using it, and what I find is that the actual value is Y. And if I had taken all of the time beforehand to build out all of the assets, to build the website, to build the videos, to build all of that stuff in line with what I thought to be true, I would have to just rebuild all of it anyway, because come to find out, I was incorrect. I guessed wrong. This is actually what people see and people want to hear and want to know about. So if you look at like my website right now, it's the reason that it is a minimum viable website, if you will. It's like the most bare bones thing that you will ever see. And that's because I don't know what direction this is going to go entirely. So why spend all of that time, effort, and energy just to have to tear it down and rebuild it again? If you look at how I do my free calls that I do every couple of weeks, like I send out an email from my Gmail account. Like, I don't have MailChimp set up. I don't like all of this. And it's not that I don't know how to do that. My last business was relatively large and had tons of systems and tons of tech and tons of email sequences and automations and sales teams and all of that. Like, I got it. I can do it all. And I don't believe that's what this is about. On some level, it's about being seen and trusting that me sitting here without a script, without knowing exactly what it is I'm going to say, is enough. And I think it's enough because it gives you permission. I'm what's called a 6-2 profile in a system that I often talk about called the gene keys. And that profile type is keynoted the role model. And I think that's the deal here, is I can just show that there is another way to do this where you don't have to cater to the algorithm. You don't have to constantly keep people's attention. You don't have to kill yourself editing or with thumbnails. The only requirement is that you show up and you share yourself from your heart. And when you do that, the right people are going to resonate. And the numbers might not be nearly as big. They might be. So that's important too. Don't limit yourself. It might be even bigger. That's what I'm playing with now. It's like, what happens when I do this every day? And I just sit down and I talk. But it might be that the metrics aren't as big, but because you're sharing from your heart, you're sharing who and what you really are, the other people who move through the world that way, it's going to find them and it's going to deeply resonate with them, and you're going to cross paths and you're going to be able to do work together. I think so many people think about scaling, about growing, when they're not ready to scale. Business is done one-to-one. Right? I sit down with you and I listen to where you are in your life, what you're struggling with, where you're trying to go. And I tell you whether or not I think I can help. And if I think I can help, I tell you how I think I can help. I tell you what it would look like, how long it might take, roughly how much it costs. And we say, yes, that sounds good. That would work for me and it would work for you. Everyone benefits. And that's all we need to do. We don't need like the AI chatbots and the fancy website and all of that stuff. It's just us listening to an authority outside of ourselves. At least it is for me. And it might be that some people's path is through those things. So don't be discouraged if that's the path that you're on. But I just want to open you to see that there might be another way to do this. And if you're like me, somebody that like really does not like getting lost in the details, does not like, sitting in front of a computer for hours editing. I love this part. I love sitting down and talking and hopefully, making a connection, like creating a moment of like, whoa, I've never heard somebody say it like that before. I love that. And I want to double down on that part of it, on the stuff that I'm good at. I went for so long thinking that that wasn't enough, that I also need to have these, perfect thumbnails, and I also need to have this, these beautiful edits and this, I start copying other people, and it's just not who or what I am. And I have no desire to chase growth for growth's sake. I think that this other way, this attuning to what wants to be said in the moment right now, is the path forward for me. So we'll see, because this is a real-time experiment. And I'm still working on finding my brand and how it connects to the culture at large. And, I know that there are a couple components. Like I have this big-hearted, soft, kind of feminine side of me that I've developed recently. And then I've got the much stronger, much, the part I'm much more used to, and if I'm not careful, the part that takes over, which is this, what I call the outlaw. It's this like bad boy energy, for lack of a better term. It's this like hard, masculine, cussing and smoking, and like there's that part of me too. And to pretend like I'm all spiritual or that I'm all that is just not true. And so the best way that I can see to fall into that voice is to just sit down and speak with it. So hopefully this created a aha for you and gave you permission to maybe think about doing the same thing. And maybe it saves you from time and taking 6 months to build out all of these things and then launching only to find, oh crap, this wasn't the right message. It might not even align to you anymore, Okay, I think that's it for today. Thanks for being here, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.